Is America on the verge of a potential civil war? This may be spooky, this may be scary, but I think there's some practical things from this video that'll help us understand where we are and where we can be if things hit the fan.
I've been predicting America will have a civil war or revolution since 2020. Back then, this sort of thing appeared distant, like something you would read about in a history book. The scary thing is that now it's real. My friends at the Stitch and Adams podcast like to say wars like this go from people LARPing to until they stop and the LARPing turns real. Hitler was LARPing conquering Eastern Europe. The communists were LARPing revolution and the American South was LARPing secession. It's all fun and games until the Nerf guns get replaced for The scary thing now is that there have been a series of horrifying events that only make sense in a context of a society that's about to have a civil war. The most recent example is Texas saying the federal government has abandoned its duty to the nation by letting millions of immigrants cross the Mexican border, and Texas won't take it anymore. Now half the states in the country have supported Texas, and 10 have offered to send troops to help protect Texas. Maine and Colorado tried to take Trump off the ballot, and New Mexico tried to ban guns. These are all things in which the only previous precedent in our nation's history was the last Civil War. The last time states bucked the central government in this manner, or states took candidates from the main opposition party off their ballot, was 1860.
Pretty spooky, right?
That's crazy.
Pretty spooky, right? I mean, the way he laid out the maps with all the states supporting Texas and the governor putting up barbed wire fencing and all that kind of stuff to protect the border there, which is just a crazy situation.
And he said they took candidates off of the ballots?
Some liberal states have been trying to take Trump off the ballots.
And the last time they did that was in the Civil War.
Yes. Yeah. And Colorado,
I didn't know Trump was alive during the Civil War.
No.
For a bunch of reasons, I think that we'll start having violence over the next year. I don't think American society can make it through the 2024 election without collapsing into civil war.
Now, he's a bit of a doomer, in my opinion.
Oh, totally.
So I'm not co-signing this, but his thought process around this is interesting. And there's one specific thing I want to point out to you guys.
War. We might not even have that much time, if I'm being honest. His computer model has predicted the Russian Revolution, French Revolution, Roman Civil War.
But I don't know about these models. Some of these models are like,
what does it even mean?
Yeah, it's like based on this system and this thing. But here's some data that gets interesting.
Based off Black Death or the religious wars of the 17th century to the exact periods they took place in based off 3 variables. Those being elite overproduction, or how many people are competing for elite jobs, low average wages, and inequality. These 3 factors predict revolutions and civil wars, given that once 80% of the population is poor and has no incentive to cooperate, it means that society falls apart.
Now, that's an important point. Once 80% of the population is poor and has no reason to cooperate, that's when societies fall apart. That's pretty spooky.
Result in a situation in which different factions split up among the population since the mainstream is failing. Over history, this has been the whites and reds, north and south, Armagnacs and Burgundians, or Lancasters and Yorkists. In each case, these factions represented sub-demographics of the population trying to take over. In our, this is the college-educated left versus non-college-educated right.
The way he breaks this down is really interesting. The college-educated left versus the non-college-educated right.
I would call them college-attending left, not college-educated left. It's a big difference.
So check this out.
Here in this text wall, every single policy the left pushes benefits the college-educated, giving them jobs and power. Meanwhile, the opposite is true for the right, which stands for the military, business, and religious interests who don't base their social status off college degrees.
Check this out. It says, why America politics boil down to college-educated versus non-college-educated economy. The left wants college-educated government workers to manage the economy. Meanwhile, the right wants to give as much freedom to non-college-based businesses. Social morality. The left wants college professors in various departments to determine social moral codes, while the right wants traditional religious figures to do that. 3, defund the police. The left supports replacing non-college educated policemen with college-educated social workers. Foreign policy. The left prefers using college-educated diplomats for international affairs and wars, while the right prefers using the non-educated military. Legislation. The left approves of college-educated bureaucrats making legislation over society, while the right abhors this.
Who don't base their social status off college degrees. I would highly recommend the book Leviathan and Its Enemies by Samuel Francis. It's one of the best political books I've ever read, where Francis was a conservative who, in this book, was doing a Marxist class analysis of modern society. It talks about how the college-educated, or the managerial class as he calls them, dominate society, and thus the left dominates all the institutions.
So remember when we reacted to Vivek talking about the deep state. Who was he talking about? Who was the deep state?
Middle management.
The middle management, the managerial class, the bureaucracy. And so listen to what he goes on to say here.
Managerial class, as he calls them, dominate society, and thus the left dominates all the institutions. As a general rule, you can predict if someone is right or left-wing based off how much agency they have in their work. Anyone who works in a large bureaucracy will tilt left, and anyone who has agency in their work, even if they're poor like small business owners or farmers, will tilt right.
That's crazy.
Ain't that good?
Yeah.
The more bureaucracy you have in your job, the more you're likely to lean left. The less bureaucracy and the more solopreneur, intrapreneur, entrepreneur, the more you are to lean right. Even folks who are poor and work.
That's like, if you think about everyone you know, it's like, oh, that's true. Oh, that's true.
100%.
Oh, that's true.
Yep.
Like I know people that are more progressive for Christians, or a little bit more, a little more left leaning. And they work at like mega churches with lots of bureaucracy and like lots of ladders and people and middle management and people to work through, and they like thrive in that.
Society is managed by vast impersonal bureaucracies, so the left can manage all the large institutions, whether Hollywood, the media, Wall Street, corporations, the high ranks of the military, the churches, presidency, government bureaucracy, and tech. One of the ways I hone my predictive abilities is to look backwards over history.
How does this make you feel?
How does it make me feel?
Yeah, how does it make you feel? I want your emotions behind it.
Well, it doesn't, how does this make me feel? When he said that, it just made more sense of where we are right now. Like I was like, oh, I get it. Like I get it. Like I get MAGA. like I really get it, right?
Okay.
And so I think that's how it makes me feel. It's like, oh, like I understand why certain people lean a certain way and other people lean a different way. I understand why certain people are frustrated with certain aspects of government and while other people not. Like that graph that I showed you where it said, all these policy issues, right?
Yep.
And so it's like, is this going to lead to an actual civil war? I don't know. I don't know. I would hope that in a weird way, the current president is so bad that I'm seeing more people unify around how bad he is. I'm seeing more people going, whoa, this dude's bad, right? Jon Stewart just came back to The Daily Show. Let me pull this up real quick before we wrap. This will be what we wrap with.
Okay, so you're saying instead of it being a civil war where people are divided, oh, Biden's good, Trump is good, let's fight it out. You're saying maybe we can all just agree that Biden literally doesn't know what he's doing right now, and they're still supporting him. And then we can all go, wow, that's pretty bad. Maybe we should get someone more competent in there.
Now, Democrats will say that any criticism like this, especially of Biden, is unfair because you just don't know Biden like they know Biden.
President Biden, who I've been around numerous times just in this last year, is sharp, he's focused, he's bright.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on.
He's smart, he's on his game.
I was in almost every meeting with the president, and the president was in front of and on top of it all, coordinating and directing leaders who are in charge of America's national security, not to mention our allies around the globe.
Did anyone film that? Because if you're
so he's back, and one of the first things he's back on is dunking on how bad the president is. And he's a Democrat. He's left. You got Crystal on Breaking Point saying the same thing. So my prediction is that Biden's chef kiss blessing is that he's so bad and Kamala is so bad that more of the country is going to be like, gosh, this is so bad. We're going to unify around how bad he really is. That's my prediction. We see according to the Bible that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. For the Christians watching this channel, I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask him to move on my behalf. And two, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when he answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used for my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. You can pick yours up today by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.